Well, through the course of this campaign, we've had a chance to speak with radio talk show hosts right across the country. And as we enter the final days of this 45th general election campaign, well, we're now checking in with Todd Veinotte. He is the host of the Todd Veinotte Show on City News in Halifax. Todd, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for asking. I appreciate it, Michael.
Listen, as recently as a few months ago, Halifax looked like it could be in play for both the Conservatives and the NDP. When you look at the polls right now, that seems to no longer be the case. What's changed? What are you hearing from people when you speak to them about the federal election campaign?
Well, I think what's changed here is what's changed right across the country, and that's Mark Carney and of course the President Donald Trump and his threats to Canada, his existential threat, which is taken very seriously here, and Justin Trudeau's gone. It really comes down to those three factors, and that's what turned things around, because people, for whatever reason, seem to when it comes to trust and having trust in a leader, Mark Carney seems to be that guy, and Pierre Poilievre, for whatever reason, has not been able to kind of break through and gain that trust. And I think it really comes to that. Really, Justin Trudeau's gone, Mark Carney's in, and President Trump has been President Trump.
Now, you use the word trust in terms of how people view leadership. What more are they telling you about both Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre, if you don't mind kind of spelling it out for people across the country?
Okay, well, when it comes to trust with Pierre Poilievre, people, I think, fear that he is going to be Trump-like. We hear that quite often. And I don't know that that's warranted, and as a matter of fact, I don't necessarily agree with that. But that's the sentiment that I hear, that consistently people call and they feel as though that they call the show or they send me emails, and consistently I hear that they do not trust that Pierre Poilievre will be the guy that can best serve the interests of Canada, can best stand up to Donald Trump. And he has been coined with terms like populist and all of those kind of coined phrases that people hear in the United States, and it concerns them. And so I think it's a matter of trust. As far as Mark Carney goes, Brookfield Management and tax havens and his track record, his economic track record, you would think that those would be issues of trust, but they haven't seemed to really been impactful or move the needle for him. So for whatever reason, Mark Carney seems to be, his pedigree perhaps is what it is, and we all know his impressive pedigree, but he seems to have the trust of constituents in Nova Scotia anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the Conservative leader, the Liberal leader. Let's switch over to the NDP right now, because the NDP, in the past few decades, or a couple of decades at least, have had success in Nova Scotia, Metro Halifax in particular. I'm thinking about Megan Leslie, Alexa McDonough. The party right now is running a former MLA, Lisa Roberts, in the riding of Halifax proper. How is that name recognition helping, or perhaps not helping out her campaign in this election?
Well, like you said, Halifax is an NDP bastion provincially here. They've got all their seats, I think 5 or 6 seats provincially, including the official opposition leader Claudia Chender, who's very sharp. And as you mentioned, there's an NDP tradition here in Nova Scotia. Peter Stauffer, well-known MP, former MP. Megan Leslie. So I think Lisa's got a shot at it because of that NDP tradition. But that said, Jagmeet Singh is not popular, I think, throughout the country, and certainly not. I don't think he's done a lot to help himself. But I think despite that, I think the NDP have a shot here because of Lisa and that NDP tradition here in Nova Scotia.
So come election night, Todd, what are you watching out for?
Man, oh man, it's going to be tight. Look, it's going to be tough. I think I understand. I recognize that the polls are indicating that the Liberals are in majority territory. I'm not convinced of that. I think it's going to be really tight. Usually these things are done by the time Ontario is done, and we know the first past the post system and its flaws, and the previous Liberal governments failed to address that, although it promised to. But I guess I'm just looking for upset surprises, see how the Maritimes go, see how the Atlantic provinces go, and I think it's going to be a tight race. And I think my prediction is a minority government, either Conservative or Liberal.
Mm-hmm. You say tight. Why is that? Is that basically what you're hearing from people you speak with on air?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I understand that people call talk shows that's not scientific by any stretch of the imagination. But I just think again, there's with Pierre Poilievre, I've already talked about the hesitation that people have with Pierre Poilievre, but there's a lot of hesitation when it comes to the Liberals as well. They had 10 years of a pretty poor record, a pretty poor track record, in which they are running on. And although Mark Carney's is in the window now, I just think that people are going to take a long, hard look before they can endorse what has been a pretty poor decade for the Liberals and the Liberal track record. So I'm looking for a really tight night.
Okay. Well, we too are watching. Listen, Todd, really appreciate the insights. Thank you for sharing this.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.